I guess the important thing that I feel that a young person needs to know for the future is who they are, what their values are, and determining right from wrong. That will set them in their stead for life. I, as everyone does that has children, had 3 children that were very different. And I probably made the mistake in the beginning, since our first 2 were 17 months apart, was that, well, I did it this way with the first one, so I'll do it that way with the second one. And lo and behold, did I find that not only was the first one a girl and the second one a boy, but none of the aforementioned would apply, no matter what. And each of them had to come as they grew, and the third one 6 years later, as to know who they were, and what their values were, and that's not easy. That's the core of life. Courtney was very gregarious, and as I said before, was the captain of every sport except football, and went on to be a fantastic marketer, and she had to explore, to find that. We could see, what her strengths and weaknesses were, but she had to find those herself, make some mistakes along the way. And Clay, the same. He went to a school that was strictly for engineering. He had been tracked math, science, because he had a learning disability, and went to Purdue and hated engineering, and decided that he wanted to be an English major. And of course, Chris said, well, would you like to be an English major at a different school? But he loved the people and the relationships that he had built at Purdue, and he knew that was right for him. And went on to explore himself, through English, and went out into the world and sailed the America's Cup, and ended up in business, which really surprised me, but in a way that was very comfortable for him. And then 6 years later, the last, and Lindsay being a girl, she was the one that went to the Naval Academy. And I talk about my children, and they are so surprised to hear, when I say she went to the Naval Academy and graduated and went on to war, and now is a consultant to the Navy. Sailing, on the other hand, all over the world, racing sailboats, in women's match racing, and feeling, after many hard experiences in the Navy, feeling very comfortable, now with who she is, but having to make a lot of hard choices. I think part of helping them find themselves, and Chris and I find ourselves as parents, was living on a sailboat for 15 years. Every summer we would move out from our town and move on to a 40-foot sailboat, which sounds big until you have 5 people living there, but we called it Argonauta, and Argonauta was taken from Anne Morrow Lindbergh's book, Gift from the Sea, and each chapter had a name of a shell, and the Argonauta was the chapter in your life where the Argonauta shell was open, and the creatures in the sea would come together and the family would come together, and then they would go out and explore, and find out, who they were. And then they'd come back to the Argonauta and be together and share those experiences and relationships. And that was the name of our boat. And that's what happened in our family. And it was an economically hard time, but those experiences were priceless. And we all look back and think that was so worth building a family around those experiences. And every summer when sailing camp was over, we would sail down to Put-in-Bay, the kids would race, and then we would sail wherever we had time to sail. Sometimes we would just sail the islands. Sometimes we'd sail all around Lake Erie. And sometimes we would sail up to the North Channel and the Georgian Bay. And it was that trip in 1987 that Courtney referred to just a few weeks ago on the phone, mother of 3, talking about looking back at how she did not want to go on that trip. As we left Put-in-Bay to go up to the Detroit River, she was crying, didn't want to leave her friends. She was in 8th grade, so her friends were of all importance. And the thought of 4 weeks away on a sailboat was just daunting to her. By the end, and it turned out to be 5 weeks, she was the one that was looking for anchorages that had no other sailboats, that we could all just be together, go out on the beach and build a fire and talk. And it was those times, whether it be sailing, just the 5 of us, or including their friends, the time we had to talk, the time we had to explore who we were, what our values were, I think set us all as a family up for life.